when Jungkook shocks fans with a vow to erase all his tattoos before marriage. A secret past resurfaces, and nothing will ever be the same again. I'll remove them all. Every single tattoo. The room fell silent, stunned, breathless, as if the air itself was holding back a gasp. The red on-air sign glowed above them like a quiet warning. Jungkook's voice didn't tremble, but his eyes betrayed him dark, unreadable, flickering with something between regret and resolve. The microphone picked up the soft hitch in his breath, amplified it, echoed it through millions of headphones around the world. "Why?" the host asked gently, too stunned to mask the curiosity. Jungkook smiled, tight and cryptic. "Because some things weren't meant to be permanent." Outside the glass window of the Seoul high-rise studio, lightning rippled across the city sky like a cracked mirror. Inside, time felt momentarily suspended until the podcast producer behind the booth motioned to cut for commercial. But millions had already heard it live. The confession hit harder than any headline. Fans clipped it, looped it, slowed it down. Is he getting married? Was it a metaphor? Why now? But none of them knew the truth. Not yet. 3 days later, Jungkook stood in front of his bathroom mirror, fingertips brushing the ink on his chest, the tiger lily, once vibrant, now fading. Beneath it, scar tissue shimmered faintly under the fluorescent light. His gaze lingered there longer than usual. He hadn't told anyone that the tattoo had once been something else. Something he'd erased once before. His phone vibrated. One new message. Unknown number. "If you really plan to remove them, you need to remember what you promised. Meet me, alone, no security." He froze. His reflection stared back. But it wasn't really him, not the global idol, not the golden Maknae. It was the version of him he'd buried in Busan, long before BTS, long before the lights, the cameras, the screaming crowds. The version with trembling hands and blood on his knuckles. The one who swore never to go back. But the past never forgets. When he showed up at the cafe in Hongdae, it was drizzling, the rain clinging to the hem of his hoodie, muffling the city's hum. The figure waiting for him sat in the corner, head bowed under a black cap, nursing a glass of warm water, like it was the only thing keeping them tethered to this world. She looked up. Her eyes were the same. Wild. Haunted. "Eugen," he whispered. "I told you," she said, voice like wet paper. "You can't erase them, not without consequences." He hadn't seen her in 6 years, not since that night by the docks, when sirens screamed in the distance and someone stopped breathing because of a secret they swore never to speak aloud. She still bore the faint outline of a crescent moon on her wrist, half burned by acid, half hidden under a thin layer of foundation. He wondered if she still dreamed of it like he did. "I moved on," he said. "We all did." "No, Jungkook," she snapped, eyes narrowing. "You covered it up, but it's still there. And now you're going to unearth it for love?" He looked away. There was a pause, just rain and breath between them. Then she slid a faded photograph across the table. It was of the two of them, younger, dirty, laughing, on the roof of an abandoned train yard. But behind them, barely visible, stood a man, his face blurred, but not his eyes. "I saw him," Eugen whispered. "Last night, near your apartment." He stood up so fast his chair toppled. "That's impossible." "No," she said. "It's inevitable." That night, he didn't sleep. He pressed a hand to the tattoo on his shoulder, the one fans loved most. A phoenix wrapped in thorns. The last piece he ever got. The one she designed for him when they still believed in redemption. If he erased them all, would he still remember why he got them in the first place? Would he forget the boy who made a promise beneath the broken city lights? Or worse, would it make the past think he was ready to be found? The wind howled outside like it was carrying whispers. Somewhere in Seoul, a needle was being sterilized. And somewhere else, a voice was recording him. Not the polished voice from his recent interview, but something raw, older, from the tapes they thought had been destroyed. "Jungkook," it said, "tell them what you did." He stumbled back from the window. Was it hallucination? Or was someone out there watching, waiting? A had 10 tattoos left, and time was running out. The voice echoed long after the recording ended. "Jungkook, tell them what you did." He hadn't heard that voice in almost a decade. It was low, gravelly, laced with a venomous intimacy that turned his stomach inside out. The sound quality was raw, like it had been recorded on a cheap cassette buried in someone's basement, but the weight of it crushed him with precision. He locked his apartment door, double-checked every window, cameras, microphones. He scanned the room with frantic paranoia, as if any wall might suddenly blink back at him. His security team hadn't reported any breaches, but Jungkook knew better. Whoever sent that audio knew things, intimate things, private, unspoken, and worse, unspeakable. His phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Nice view tonight, isn't it? Window. Second from the left. That's your kitchen, right? He bolted, heart racing. Jungkook sprinted into the hallway, slamming the elevator button with shaking hands. When it didn't light up immediately, he turned and took the stairs, 2 at a time, hoodie flapping behind him like a cape barely keeping him together. On the curb outside his building, the city light seemed colder than usual, uninviting, artificial. His manager, Taesung, had always told him Seoul was a stage and everyone on it was a performer. But tonight, it felt like he was the only one who didn't know the script. He called Yujin. No answer. He tried again. Still nothing. Suddenly, headlights flared. A black sedan pulled up. The window rolled down. "Get in," Yujin said flatly, eyes hidden behind dark lenses, lips tense. "Now." Inside the car, she didn't speak. She just drove. Fast. Erratic. The city blurred into neon streaks, and all Jungkook could hear was the pounding of his pulse against the side of his head. "Where are we going?" he demanded. She didn't answer until they were halfway across the Han River. "I found the original tape," she said. "What tape?" "The confession." His stomach dropped. "That's impossible. We destroyed everything. We burned. We thought we did." Yujin slammed the brakes. They screeched to a stop in front of a decrepit recording studio in Mapo-gu. Boarded windows. Faded paint. But the lock on the door was freshly changed. "They were here," she whispered. 2 nights ago. The studio's logs show a USB upload around midnight. Untraceable IP. "Who are they?" "I don't know," she hissed. "But I think it's someone from back then. One of the 7. Jungkook stared at her, horrified. "There were only 5 of us left after that night," he said. "Only us. And I've been watching them for years. Namjoon's still in Bali. Hain disappeared in 2021. Minsu's dead. Then maybe it's the one we thought died." A silence heavier than gunfire settled between them. "No," he said. "Don't even say his name." She opened the glove box and pulled out a phone burner. Unmarked. She pressed play. The same voice from the earlier message poured out. Clearer this time, more sinister. "You think tattoos can cover up guilt?" it asked. "You think ink hides blood?" Then laughter. Dry. Broken. And finally, "Erase me all you want, John Jungkook, but I'll always be the part of you that survived." He couldn't breathe. "This is blackmail," he said. "Someone's playing with us." "It's not blackmail," Yujin replied, her voice trembling for the first time. "It's a resurrection." The words rattled in his head like chains dragging across the floor of a prison cell. Suddenly, her phone lit up. Breaking news. BTS's Jungkook sparks outrage after tattoo confession. Netizens divided. Jungkook grabbed it, scrolling. Watching his own face plastered across every major Korean outlet. Photos of his tattoos labeled "dissected." One article zoomed into the phoenix, claiming it resembled a Yakuza symbol. Another speculated it was connected to a secret underground ring involving elite idols and a decades-old criminal syndicate. "That's insane," he said, voice rising. "They're reading into art. They're being fed," Yujin said. "That symbol he used to draw it. Back then, on everything. No one remembers that. Someone does." And then her voice cracked. "They're trying to link it back to the fire, Kook. The one that killed him. The one we thought was an accident." Jungkook leaned back in the seat, closing his eyes. The fire. The screaming. The smell of gasoline. The sickening hiss of tattoos melting into flesh. He hadn't spoken about it in 10 years, not to anyone. The courts had sealed the file, paid off witnesses. It was supposed to disappear. "Until now, we need to end this," he said. "We can't," Yujin whispered. "Not until we know who's behind it." When they finally returned to his apartment, Jungkook found a note taped to his front door. It wasn't handwritten. It was typed, block font, clean, precise. You made a promise when the blood hit the water. You all did. The ink was a seal. You break it, and it all comes undone. 1 down. 9 to go. Ghost. His hands trembled. 9 tattoos left. 9 secrets buried under flesh. And someone was coming to dig them up one by one.
Why now?
Jungkook's voice broke the silence as he paced across his apartment like a caged animal.
Why come after me now?
Yujin stood by the window, arms crossed, face unreadable in the soft light of the skyline. Because you said you'd remove them. You opened the door. They were just words, a passing comment. I didn't mean... You meant it. She cut him off. And someone out there was listening. He stopped, turned. I'm not the same person I was back then. She met his eyes. Aren't you? The words hung between them like a loaded gun. Jungkook looked down at his arm, the tiger tattoo that curled around his bicep. Once, it was just a tiger. Now he saw it for what it really was, a symbol of protection, a ward, a cage. He sank into the couch, fingers running through his hair. You said someone else might have survived if it's true, if he's alive. Yujin flinched. You saw him, Jungkook whispered. Didn't you? She didn't speak. Yujin, he pressed. Did you see him? Finally, she nodded. It was 2 seconds, she said. I was leaving a gallery. Thought I saw someone watching me from across the street. Tall, thin, limp in the left leg. Jungkook's blood ran cold. No one else limped like him. No one else smiled like him. She added, voice hollow. That crooked smile like he knew how you'd die. He stood suddenly, knocking over a glass. It shattered, sharp fragments glittering across the hardwood like pieces of a broken truth. I need to know what's real. Yujin pulled something from her jacket. A small, rusted key. She held it out. There's one place left, she said. The old basement. Below the studio. We swore we'd never go back, but do you think the tapes are there? Jungkook asked. She hesitated. If they are, they'd be on reel-to-reel, hidden. No one's touched that space in 10 years. Jungkook took the key. It felt heavy in his palm, unclean. That night, they drove with the windows down, the air thick with anticipation and the metallic tang of an oncoming storm. The streets narrowed as they reached the abandoned building in Sangam-dong. Once a place where music was born, now a tomb of everything they tried to forget. The old studio was dead silent. Dust hung in the air like mist, catching their flashlight beams as they walked. The stairs to the basement groaned with every step, each creak like a scream trapped in wood. Jungkook hesitated before opening the final door. You sure about this? Yujin asked. No, he replied. But we already woke the dead. Might as well listen to what they have to say. The room smelled like mold and rust, and something older, something fouler, like rot in the walls, like guilt given physical form. They found the real player in the back, covered in a plastic sheet, half buried under a collapsed soundproofing panel. Jungkook plugged it into a generator. It crackled to life, lights flickering dimly. Yujin handed him the reel. It had no label. As it began to play, they heard the static hiss of time, then a voice, not the same as before. March 4th, 2015. 2:17 a.m. This is Subject 5 speaking. Confession log. If anyone finds this, I'm sorry. Jungkook's knees buckled. It was his voice, a decade younger, thinner, raw. I didn't want to hurt anyone. I didn't mean for him to fall. We just wanted him to shut up. Just for a minute. Yujin looked at him in horror. The tape continued. They said he was going to tell, that he had pictures. I didn't know what to do. We were all screaming. Then there was the sound, like something breaking, like a neck. Jungkook slammed the stop button. Why? Why did I say that? He whispered. I don't remember any of that. Repressed, Yujin murmured. It happens, especially when trauma. No, he snapped. No, that's not me. I don't remember saying those words. I don't remember any of it. The tape clicked again. Auto rewind. Then, a second voice layered over the end. I remember. It wasn't Jungkook. It was him. The one who died. The one who wasn't supposed to speak again. I remember the fire, the voice said, warped and distant. I remember your face, Kook. You lit the match. Jungkook staggered backward. That's not possible. That's not possible. Yujin was pale, eyes wide, heart hammering. Maybe it's AI, she said. Deepfake. A copy. A sick trick. But Jungkook was shaking his head. I saw him die, he whispered. I saw him burn. We covered him with a tarp. His tattoo melted into his ribs. Maybe not all of him. Suddenly, the generator cut out. Darkness swallowed the room. A low click echoed from behind them. Someone had just locked the door. Jungkook turned, heart in his throat. Footsteps above, slow, deliberate. Then a voice, muffled through the floorboards. Confession accepted. Sentence begins now. Yujin drew a blade from her boot, a reflex she hadn't lost. Jungkook grabbed the reel, stuffing it into his bag. We're not getting out the front, he said. Then we go down. There's no down. There is now. She pulled aside a stack of broken panels. Beneath them, a hatch, rusted shut, but real. They pried it open. A tunnel, unlit, wet, breathing. Jungkook looked back one last time. The voice echoed again. 1 down, 8 to go. Then silence. He jumped. Darkness swallowed him whole. The tunnel was breathing. It wasn't possible. It couldn't be real. But as Jungkook dropped into the narrow, damp corridor beneath the studio floor, the air moved in a way that felt alive, thick and wet, like lungs exhaling stale secrets. Behind him, Yujin landed hard, the hatch slamming shut above them with a metallic thud. Darkness swallowed them whole. Flashlight, she hissed. He flicked on the one strapped to his wrist. A narrow beam cut through the black. The walls were stone, old and cracked, sweating from within. Water dripped slowly from above, hitting the ground with the rhythmic patience of a heartbeat. Where the hell are we? Jungkook muttered. I don't know. This wasn't here before. Not when we used this place. She moved ahead, blade drawn, footsteps silent. The tunnel stretched downward at a slight incline, curving and branching like veins under the skin of the city. It smelled like mildew, smoke, and something older. Bone dust, burnt wood, regret. Someone built this after, Yujin whispered. For what? They turned a corner and came to a steel door. It had no handle, only a smeared handprint on the wall beside it. Human. Fresh. Jungkook reached for it. Yujin caught his wrist. Don't. He looked at her confused, frustrated, scared. What if it's a trap? It is a trap, he said. But if it's a way out, he pressed his palm to the wall. Nothing happened. Then a sharp click, as if a lock had disengaged, and the door slid open with an unnatural hiss. The room beyond was wrong, cold, humming with electricity. The walls were covered in photographs, dozens of them, hundreds maybe clipped to wires, stuck with rusted pins, all black and white, all grainy, all of him. Jungkook. Different angles, candid moments, public appearances, private ones. Sleeping, showering, bleeding. He stepped inside, stomach twisting. Is that? Yujin gasped. He turned to the largest photograph on the wall. It was dated only 2 weeks ago. He was standing on his balcony, shirtless, hand on the back of his neck. The tattoo of the phoenix clearly visible. You're being watched, she said. No, Jungkook whispered. I'm being studied. On a table in the center of the room lay a small glass case. Inside it, a vial of dark ink, thick, viscous, alive-looking. Next to it, a note on yellowing paper. You took from me what was sacred. Now I return it to you. Ink is memory. Memory is punishment. Gee. He looked at Yujin, throat dry. Is that his tattoo ink? She nodded slowly. Looks like the same brand. Same bottle we used in the studio. The one we thought burned. He reached for it, but Yujin slapped his hand away. You're not putting that near your skin. I'm not afraid. You should be. A light flickered behind them. Then came the sound. A soft, metallic dragging. Footsteps. Slow. Limping. Yujin turned, blade up, breath sharp. The lights above them snapped off one by one. In darkness now, the sound grew closer. Something scraping along the wall. Breathing that wasn't theirs. Run, she hissed. They bolted. The tunnel seemed to pulse. Walls pressing in. Air thick with something fetid. The photographs whipped past them like ghosts in a windstorm. At the end of the corridor, another hatch, a ladder leading up. They climbed. As they emerged into the night, Jungkook felt the ground shift beneath his feet. He collapsed onto concrete, coughing. They were back on the street, but not the one they'd left. This was deeper into the city's veins, into forgotten industrial zones. Behind them, the tunnel sealed itself. No sign it had ever existed. They sat in silence for a long moment. Yujin lit a cigarette with trembling fingers. "I don't smoke anymore," she said before taking a deep drag. "But fuck it, we're probably already dead." Jungkook leaned against the brick wall, head back. "It's him. Somehow. It has to be. Ghost," she whispered. "Don't call him that." "What else should I call him, Jungkook? He died. We burned him. We covered it up. Now he's talking to us, sending photos, playing tapes. Either he's alive, or someone who loved him very, very much is taking revenge." Jungkook looked down at his arm. The phoenix. Still there. Still burning. But now it felt like it wasn't his anymore. Like someone else was wearing it from inside him. His phone buzzed. A video link from the same unknown number. He clicked it. It was live streaming. From inside his bedroom, Jungkook's breath caught. The camera panned slowly across the room. Drawers open, clothes scattered. A photo frame turned upside down. Then it paused on his bed. His white sheets were soaked in red. A single tattoo needle placed gently on the pillow. "No," he whispered. He zoomed in. The ink on the needle was fresh. Yujin grabbed the phone, hands shaking. "There's a timestamp. This is live. He's in your apartment." "We need to call the police," Jungkook said. "And tell them what? That a dead boy is trying to kill you through your tattoos?" "I'll tell them everything." "You can't. You'll destroy your career." Jungkook looked at her, jaw clenched. Maybe it deserves to be destroyed. Silence. Then Yujin said something she hadn't said since they were 16. "You don't get to martyr yourself. Not yet. Not when there are still others out there." He turned. "Others?" "From the group. We were 5. We were 7, Jungkook. 2 left early. Before the fire. Before everything." He stared at her. "You think they're being hunted too?" "I know they are." He swallowed. "Then we find them. And if they don't want to be found, then we remind them," he said. "The ink may fade, but the blood never did." Yujin crushed the cigarette under her boot. They disappeared into the night. Behind them, on a rooftop high above the alley, a figure watched. Silent, still, masked, holding a match between 2 fingers. He lit it, watched it burn, then whispered into the wind as the flame kissed his skin. "1 down, 8 to go. You're saying Jisoo's still alive?" Jungkook's voice cracked as he stared at Yujin across the train cabin, his fingers gripping the table between them, hard enough to blanch his knuckles. "I'm saying she never really disappeared," Yujin replied, her tone low but loaded. "She went dark after the fire. Cut ties. But I tracked her last year, Argentina. Some environmental nonprofit. I didn't reach out. Why not? Because I thought she wanted out. Thought she was smart to run before it all caught up with us. Turns out, none of us were fast enough." The train hurtled through the countryside, lights flickering overhead. Jungkook leaned back against the window, face drawn. His reflection stared at him, tired, hollow-eyed. He looked older than he should have at 28, like something was being peeled from him day by day. "She was the one who made me get the ink," he said, almost to himself. "The phoenix. She said it was protection, that tattoos held energy." "She was always too deep into that esoteric shit," Yujin muttered. "Runes, ink magic, binding spells. I thought it was just a phase. Maybe it wasn't," Jungkook whispered. "Maybe that's what this island A binding, unraveling." Yujin turned to face him, eyes sharp. "You think the tattoos are cursed?" "I think they're more than decoration," he said. "I think we made a pact, and now it's being called in." The train began to slow. "Next stop, Gyeongju," the automated voice announced. They stepped off the train into a fog-choked evening. The air was thick with dew and the scent of wet pine. Yujin led the way, her boots crunching on gravel, eyes constantly scanning the darkness. "She's staying in a temple up the hill," Yujin said. "Goes by Sister Mayun now. Buddhist robe, shaved head, no internet, no phone." Jungkook scoffed. "Jisoo, a monk?" "She was always the quiet one. She was the one who lit the fuse, Yujin. And maybe that's why she's hiding in prayer." They climbed the winding path until they reached the stone archway of a secluded temple, hidden deep in the trees. Lanterns glowed dimly, casting long, eerie shadows. A bell rang somewhere above them, slow and ominous. They entered the courtyard. A few monks passed by, giving them polite nods, unaware or perhaps pretending not to notice the tension radiating off Jungkook like a storm. Then he saw her. Jisoo stood in the garden, trimming bonsai trees. Head shaved, her face serene, almost ageless, but her eyes when they met his froze, like she'd seen a ghost. "Don't," she said sharply before he could speak. "Don't say my name. Not here." He didn't care. "You know what's happening," he said. She turned, slowly putting down her shears. "I felt it," she said quietly. "The moment you said it out loud on that podcast, it was like the ground shifted, like the ink beneath my skin began to itch." Jungkook took a step closer. "He's back." "No," she said firmly. "He's not. He can't be. He's watching me. Sent me a tape, a photo, broke into my apartment. Ghosts don't need doors," she murmured. Yujin crossed her arms. "Then maybe it's not a ghost. Maybe it's one of us." Jisoo flinched. "I told you we should have left everything in the fire," she said. "But no, you had to cover it up. You had to preserve your precious innocence." Jungkook's voice rose. "We were kids, Jisoo." "So was he." The silence that followed was volcanic. Jisoo exhaled. "The ink you carry, it's not just pigment. We mixed it. Back then, for that one session. You remember?" Jungkook's stomach dropped. "No." "You blacked out halfway through." Yujin kept going. "But me and him, we added something to the base. Something old. A ritual blend. Root oil, bone ash, binding compounds. You wanted the phoenix to never die, remember? I didn't know you meant that literally." She stepped forward, her voice trembling now. "It wasn't supposed to be real. Just teenage obsession. Just rebellion. But now it's waking. The ink's a map. A lock. And if you start removing pieces..." "He's released," Yujin finished. Jisoo nodded. Jungkook whispered, "So what do we do?" "Nothing," she said. "You let it sleep. You leave the tattoos." "I already scheduled the removal," he said. "First session was meant to be next week." Jisoo stared at him like he'd announced his own execution. "You can't." He was shaking now. He said, 8 to go. As if every tattoo I lose frees a part of him. Like he's using the pain, the removal process, to claw his way back. Jisoo turned pale. He islanded. "I have 9 left," Jungkook whispered. 9 locks. Jisoo gripped his wrists. "Then listen to me, Jungkook. If even one more is taken, he won't just whisper. He'll walk." Suddenly, one of the temple bells rang again, not the peaceful, measured tone of meditation. This was wild, clanging, desperate. Then came a scream. One of the monks came running across the courtyard, robes soaked in blood. "There's someone in the well," he cried. "He's trying to climb out." Jisoo's face went white. No, not here." They ran, lanterns swinging. The courtyard turned to chaos. At the center of the temple grounds was the old purification well sealed off years ago, covered with stone. Now it was cracked open. From within, a hand gripped the edge. Thin, burned, tattooed. Yujin pulled her blade again. Jungkook took a step forward, mesmerized. The hand was wet, clawing at the stone. Then a voice from below, raspy, gurgling. "You said forever, Kook." Yujin grabbed him by the collar, dragging him backward. "We have to go, now." But he couldn't move. The figure in the well began to rise. Shoulders, a chest, no face, just burned flesh, and the outline of the phoenix. On his skin, identical. Jisoo screamed, grabbing the prayer beads around her neck and throwing them at the figure. Light exploded from them as if struck by lightning. The figure shrieked and fell back into the pit. Jungkook gasped, as if waking from a drowning dream. "Was that him?" he asked, hoarse. "No," Jisoo said, shaking. "It was a fragment, a piece, like a corrupted file trying to rebuild itself." "How do we stop it?" Yujin asked. Jisoo didn't answer right away. Then she looked at Jungkook, eyes hollow. "You don't remove the tattoos," she said. "You restore them. You make them whole. You finish what was never completed. Or he'll keep coming through mirrors, dreams, ink. Every piece you try to forget will make him stronger." Jungkook's chest tightened. "I don't want to remember." "Too bad," she said. "You're the key. You always were." He looked down at his arms, the tattoos that had once made him feel powerful. unique. Now, they were chains. But maybe they were the only thing holding the monster in. He looked up, face hardening. Then we find the others. All of them. Yujin nodded. We bring them back. Jisoo hesitated, then handed him a small notebook. Inside, names, drawings, coordinates. The original map, the one only she and he had ever seen. As he opened it, a drop of black ink spilled across the page, forming into a perfect spiral. It pulsed once, then vanished. He closed the notebook. We go to Japan next, he said. Behind him, the prayer bell cracked in half and fell to the ground. It was raining when they landed. Not the soft, cleansing kind of rain. This was Tokyo's old anger, the kind that made the streets slick with reflection and memory. Neon signs bled down glass windows, warping into hallucinations. The city felt alive, but not in the usual way. It breathed, watched, whispered in the wind. Even the cab seemed hesitant to pick them up. Jungkook sat in the back of the car with Yujin beside him, the city rushing by in streaks of color and noise. The notebook Jisoo had given them rested on his lap, its weathered pages stained with ink that looked like it might crawl off the paper if he stared too long. His name's Yoichi now, Yujin said, glancing at her phone. Formerly Hein. Changed identities after the fire. He runs a private tattoo parlor in Shinjuku. No social media, no license, appointment only. Very discreet. Why Japan? Why do any of us run? She replied. Distance, disguise, denial. The car pulled into a narrow alley lit by red lanterns and the distant pulse of bass-heavy music. A paper sign on a steel door read, "Closed." But a black symbol, a small inked spiral, was scrawled on the brick beside it, the same spiral that had appeared in Jisoo's notebook. They knocked. Nothing. Jungkook knocked again harder. Finally, the door opened. He almost didn't recognize him. Hein no. Yoichi was thinner. Face more angular. Tattoos now covered every inch of visible skin, including the whites of his eyes. But it was his posture tense, like a dog that had been kicked too many times that confirmed it. The moment he saw Jungkook, his face didn't show shock, just disappointment. You shouldn't be here. Yoichi turned without a word and left the door open. They entered. The studio was underground, lit only by red bulbs. Incense burned in the corners. The smell of sterilized metal and blood lingered like a secret. Where's your blade, Yujin? Yoichi asked as he sat down behind the counter, cracking his fingers. Still sharp, she said coldly. Unlike your memory. He gave her a tired look. You came all this way to throw blame? Save it. Jungkook took the notebook and slid it across the counter. Yoichi didn't touch it. Jisoo's still alive? She's scared. She should be. So should you. Yoichi finally met Jungkook's eyes. Then tell me, what did you do? I said I'd remove my tattoos, Jungkook said. Now someone's coming for me. That's not someone, Yoichi muttered. That's what's left of him. I saw him, Jungkook said. Twice. No, Yoichi corrected, standing. You saw echoes, pieces. When you made the promise to remove your tattoos, you didn't just change your future, you triggered a response. You broke the seal. You sound like Jisoo, Yujin said. She wasn't wrong, Yoichi said, walking to the back. Come, I want to show you something. They followed him down a narrow hallway to a small locked room. He opened it with a key hidden beneath a dragon skull mounted on the wall. Inside, dim lights flickered over hundreds of drawings, pinned and taped to every surface. Each one was of Jungkook. His face, his back, his tattoos. Where did you get these? Jungkook asked, breath tight. I didn't draw them, Yoichi said. They arrived. Every week, for 2 years, in black envelopes, no return address. Yujin leaned in. These are different. Wait. Jungkook stared at one. His eyes went wide. In the drawing, he was asleep. A pair of burned hands reached toward him. I've never shown these to anyone, Yoichi said. I thought it was a warning, maybe guilt. But now I think they're instructions, Jungkook whispered. Yoichi nodded. He's not just trying to return. He's rebuilding himself. With ink. With you. Jungkook turned away, fists clenched. Why me? Because you were the last one who believed in him, Yoichi said. You were the one who told him to finish the design. The final tattoo. The lock. Jungkook stared at him. No. That design, he never showed me the final version. Yoichi walked to a drawer, pulled out a small, sealed envelope. I kept this. He gave it to me the night before the fire, told me not to open it unless he ever tried to return. I didn't understand. He handed it to Jungkook. He opened it. Inside was a sketch. A tattoo. Intricate. Circular. Made of symbols they used to carve into old notebooks, doodle onto napkins. Only this time, they were perfect, structured, binding. At the center, a black phoenix. The words beneath it read, "Burn me and I will rise again in you." Jungkook couldn't breathe. This was never about revenge, he said. No, Yoichi agreed. It was about resurrection. Suddenly, the lights cut out, pitch black. Then a sound. Scraping. Metal on tile. Yujin moved first blade drawn in the dark. Then a voice. Distorted. Not from a phone. Not from a tape. From the walls. You brought them all together, it whispered. Just like I hoped. Yoichi grabbed a flashlight, clicked it on. The drawings were bleeding. Black ink dripped from every page, running down the walls, pooling on the floor. And in the ink, faces began to form. Screaming. Twisting. The voice laughed. You wear me like skin, Jungkook. But skin peels. Skin rots. And Jungkook grabbed the envelope and shoved it into his jacket. We have to go. Yoichi looked at the melting walls, then at Jungkook. I'm coming with you. Are you sure? Yujin asked. No, he said. But if we don't stop this, there won't be anywhere left to hide. As they fled into the alley, the studio behind them groaned. Lights inside shattered one by one. A final scream echoed from the depths, and then silence. Jungkook looked down at his wrist. The ink was moving, crawling, rearranging itself. Yujin saw it too. It's starting, she said. Jungkook stared at the mark. The phoenix was changing. Its wings were no longer spread. They were folding in, like it was preparing to be reborn. They didn't sleep, not that night, not the next. By the time they reached Busan, Jungkook's hometown, the exhaustion in their eyes had twisted into something deeper, more dangerous. Not just fatigue, but haunted clarity. The kind that comes when you know you're standing on the edge of something you can't step back from. Yoichi sat by the train window, sketching compulsively on napkins he'd stuffed into his pockets during their layover. Jungkook didn't have the heart to ask what he was drawing. He already knew. More of the same. Fragments of a face he wished he could forget. A hand reaching out from a wall. A mouth that didn't need lips to speak. Yujin was quiet too, one leg bouncing restlessly under the table. Every few minutes she'd reach for her blade, as if just touching it grounded her, or reminded her that in a world where tattoos bled and drawings whispered, metal still mattered. When they finally arrived, the sea air hit Jungkook like a slap. He hadn't been back in years. Not since the funeral. Not since that funeral. The house he grew up in sat empty. Had for years. Officially sold. Unofficially untouched. A shrine to a boy who had once believed the world was something he could outrun with a mic, a stage, and a few carefully inked symbols. They broke in through the back. Still locked like you left it, Yujin muttered, twisting the window latch. Creepy how nothing changes here. Jungkook stepped inside. The moment he crossed the threshold, the memories rushed in like smoke. His mother's voice from the kitchen, the creak of his bedroom door, the smell of old books and floor polish and rain leaking through the roof. He hadn't thought about the basement in years. But now he couldn't stop. That's where it had begun. Back when the 7 of them still believed ink could save them. Back when he first said the words aloud. What if tattoos could hold something in? Yujin and Yoichi followed him into the basement. It was darker than he remembered. The overhead light didn't work, so they moved with phones and flashlights, illuminating shelves of old sketchbooks, crumpled posters, dust-covered boxes labeled with permanent markers. Yoichi froze. There, he said. He pointed at a corner behind an old keyboard stand. Hidden behind loose insulation was a box. A black one. Clean. Untouched by time. Jungkook's chest tightened. He hadn't seen that box since the night of the pact. The night they each gave a piece of themselves to the ink. He knelt, pulled it free, set it gently on the floor. Should we open it? Yujin asked. Do we have a choice? He replied. He lifted the lid. Inside, 7 vials of ink, still sealed. each one marked with a symbol. His was the phoenix. Yujin's was a dagger and a rose. Yoichi's was a serpent eating its tail. But the seventh, Jungkook stared at it. No symbol, just a deep, shimmering blackness that moved inside the glass, like it was alive. That wasn't his symbol, he said. That's not the one he designed. No, Yoichi murmured. That's the source. The true ink. Wait, Yujin said. What are you saying? Yoichi looked at her, eyes hollow. He didn't create that symbol. He found it, dug it up from some old text, maybe even stole it. All I know is, once he added it to his skin, he changed. Into what? Something that doesn't die. Jungkook stood. We need to destroy this. No, Yoichi snapped. If we destroy it now, he scatters. Fragments again. Possesses people, places, paintings. He becomes smoke, unstoppable. Then what? Yoichi hesitated. We finish the binding. All of us. You mean, get the final tattoo? Yes? No? Yujin said sharply. Absolutely not. We're not inking ourselves again with whatever the hell that island. Are you hearing yourself? You want us to finish the ritual? It's the only way, Yoichi said. No, she repeated, stepping back. We're already cursed. We're already being hunted by something that shouldn't exist. I'm not signing back in blood just because you think it'll lock him up again. Jungkook turned away, breathing hard. He could feel the tattoo on his back shifting again. The phoenix had now folded completely. The head was buried in its chest, like it was sleeping or hiding. What if he's already inside me? He whispered. No one answered. Yoichi stepped forward. That's why we have to do this, Kook. If he's using you as a vessel, the only way to cage him again is to complete the original seal. He was unfinished. Now he's trying to finish himself through you. Yujin stormed to the far wall, punching it. You're both insane. We should go public. Tell someone. Bring the authorities in. To say what? Jungkook barked. That a ghost is bleeding out of my tattoos and trying to resurrect himself through ink magic? That I might have killed him 10 years ago and now he's back to wear me like a suit? She didn't answer, because there was no answer. No help. No plan. Just them. And the ink. That night, Jungkook sat alone in his old room. He stared at himself in the cracked mirror, watched as the black lines on his skin pulsed faintly, as if alive. He took out the vial with the phoenix symbol, uncorked it. The scent hit him instantly. Ash, iron, and something sweet. Memory. He dipped his finger in it and touched it to the tattoo on his chest. Pain shot through him like a lightning strike. He screamed, collapsed to the floor. In his mind, he saw him, the boy who died, burned but smiling. You always wanted to save me, Kook, he whispered. Now you can. Jungkook gasped, reaching for anything to ground him, to anchor him back in the present. But he wasn't in Busan anymore. He was in the fire. Again, the same night. The docks, the gasoline, the scream. Say it, the boy said. Say what you did. I didn't kill you, Jungkook whispered. No, the boy said, eyes burning. You loved me. Jungkook's eyes snapped open. Yoichi and Yujin were standing over him. The mirror was shattered. His tattoo was glowing faintly under the skin. You saw him, Yoichi said. Jungkook nodded. Tears rolled down his face. I remember everything now, he whispered. He wasn't trying to hurt us. Yujin looked away. He was going to expose us. He was going to expose himself, Jungkook said, because he thought it would save me. Yoichi leaned in. Then let's save him back. They looked at each other. At the ink. At the box. At the choice they swore they'd never make again. Jungkook nodded. Tomorrow, he said, we finish it. The rain didn't stop. It fell in waves, cold and relentless, drumming on the roof of Jungkook's childhood home, like a warning that the city no longer wanted them there. They were trespassers in a grave they never dug deep enough. Yoichi stood in the kitchen sterilizing his needles in silence, his tattoos crawling along his skin as if responding to the storm. Jungkook watched him from the threshold, arms crossed, heart hammering, every second stretching like wire pulled too tight. You're sure about this? Jungkook asked. No, Yoichi replied. But that didn't stop us 10 years ago. Yujin sat on the stairs, watching them both, fingers twitching at the hilt of her blade. This isn't like before, she muttered. Back then it was just ink, rebellion, brotherhood, a dumb promise between 7 kids who didn't understand power. Yoichi didn't look at her. And now we do. That's what scares you. No, she said, standing slowly. What scares me is how easy it is for both of you to forget who we buried. What we did. Jungkook turned to her, voice sharp. I haven't forgotten. She stepped closer, face tight with something that had been boiling under the surface for far too long. You think this is redemption? Finishing the tattoo? Completing the seal? No, it's obedience. You're doing exactly what he wanted again. Yoichi's hands paused, a needle halfway through being threaded. That's not true, isn't it? She snapped. He manipulated all of us, especially you, Jungkook. You followed him like a god. And he knew it. Jungkook's jaw clenched. He wasn't a god. No, she said, voice low now. He was just a boy who was too damaged to know he was playing with fire. And you were too in love to say no. The room went still. Yoichi looked up. Yujin stared at Jungkook, daring him to deny it. He didn't. He meant everything to me, Jungkook said quietly. But I didn't know what love was back then. I thought loyalty was the same thing. Yujin's voice softened. It wasn't your fault, Kook. Wasn't it? He whispered. I let him take the ink too far. I encouraged it. I watched him carve symbols into his own chest while I stood there and filmed it. And you think finishing this design will make it right? She asked. I don't know, he said. But I know if we do nothing, he'll finish it without us. And if that happens, there won't be anything left of me. Yoichi tied a final knot, stepped back from the counter. It has to be tonight, he said. The symbols react strongest under the blood moon. It peaks in 3 hours. Of course it does, Yujin muttered, turning away. They cleared the living room, laid out towels, candles, old photos, original sketchbooks. A circle was drawn on the floor using a mix of salt and ash, the same blend they used 10 years ago. Jungkook sat in the center, shirtless, skin already trembling with the anticipation of pain. Yoichi knelt beside him, gloves tight, needle poised. I need you to say it, he said. Jungkook nodded. I consent to the binding. I accept the final seal. I offer the vessel, not as prison, but as home. Yujin flinched from the corner. God, what are we doing? The needle entered his skin. Pain bloomed instantly. Not sharp like before, but deep like it was writing into his bones. He gritted his teeth, eyes wide, hands gripping his knees. The design unfurled across his chest, spiraling outward from the phoenix like a chain reacting to fuel. With every line Yoichi inked, the tattoos on Jungkook's arms shifted, moving to accommodate the new piece. It wasn't a tattoo anymore. It was a system, a map, a prison, a resurrection chamber. Yoichi didn't speak as he worked. He just kept tattooing, hands precise, sweat rolling down his face, breathing shallow. Jungkook's skin was boiling. Inside his head, the voice returned. You're inviting me in, Kook. So why are you still afraid? Because I don't know if I'm saving you, Jungkook whispered, or becoming you. Then the pain sharpened into something else. Not physical. Something wrong. His body arched. His eyes rolled back. His mouth opened, but it wasn't his voice that came out. Is this what you wanted? The voice growled through him. To finish what you started? Yujin bolted up, blade drawn. It's him. No, Yoichi said, not stopping the needle. Not fully. It's an echo. A test. Keep him talking. Yujin approached cautiously. You killed yourself, you selfish bastard, she snapped. And now you want to drag us down with you? For what? Justice? Revenge? No, the voice in Jungkook sneered. For belonging. I was never part of you. Not really. Not the way he was. Yujin's grip tightened. You were obsessed with him. And he pitied you. That's why he didn't stop you. The voice laughed low and chilling. And still, he offered his body to bring me back. Jungkook's hand snapped upward, catching Yujin's wrist. Don't, he gasped. Don't listen to him. He's fractured. He doesn't know what he wants. Yoichi poured more ink into the needle's reservoir. Almost done, he said. Just hold. Then all the lights exploded. The candles went out, and something screamed from the walls. Glass shattered. Books flew from shelves. The house breathed. Yujin lunged to Jungkook's side, holding his head as his entire body convulsed. The tattoos writhed like snakes. The ink glowed in the moonlight, pouring through the broken windows. Yoichi carved the final line, a small spiral, right over Jungkook's heart. And everything stopped. Silence. Stillness. Jungkook gasped, then collapsed into Yujin's arms, sweat-drenched and unconscious. Yoiki sat back, hands shaking. "It's done," he whispered. But Yujin wasn't looking at Jungkook. She was staring at the wall behind them, where a message had appeared, burned into the wood. "You finished the seal, but you never asked what it was keeping out." Outside, the rain stopped, and far below the city, something ancient opened its eyes. Jungkook awoke to silence. No rain, no wind, not even the creak of the old Busan house around him. Just an eerie stillness that felt unnatural, like the city itself had paused to listen for something. He sat up slowly. His skin ached, hot and tight, the new tattoo throbbing with heat beneath his chest. He looked down. The ink had settled now, but it shimmered faintly under the skin like it was alive. The spiral at the center of his sternum no longer looked like a tattoo. It looked like a lock. Yujin was asleep on the floor beside him, curled up with her blade still in hand, like a soldier too tired to sheathe her weapon. Yoichi sat in the corner, sketching again, his eyes dark and distant. He didn't even look up when Jungkook stirred. "Did I say anything?" Jungkook asked, his voice hoarse. Yoichi nodded. "Too much." Yujin stirred, blinking groggily, then jolted upright. "You're awake. Jesus, I thought we lost you." "I don't feel like myself." "That's because you're not," Yoichi said, voice flat. "You're something new now. The ink has settled. The seal's complete." Jungkook touched the spiral. And now we wait. For what? For whatever that message meant, Yujin said, standing up and stretching with a wince. "You didn't just seal him in, Kook. You sealed something out, and we still don't know what." Jungkook stood slowly. His legs trembled. Every step felt like dragging chains, but he forced himself to the mirror in the hallway. He turned, looking at his tattoos, now fully connected, alive in ways he didn't know ink could be. And then he noticed something new. A mark beneath his left ear. A small, delicate symbol he hadn't seen before. It wasn't part of the original design. It wasn't Yoichi's work. He turned to them. "Did either of you tattoo this?" They both shook their heads. Yujin crossed the room to examine it. "That wasn't there yesterday." Yoichi's brow furrowed. "It's a glyph." Jungkook's skin went cold. "A what?" "A warding symbol," Yoichi murmured. "Ancient. Pre-Korean. This is a boundary rune." "Drawn on me?" "No," he said slowly. "Drawn by you, while you were unconscious." Jungkook stepped back. "That's not possible." Yujin looked between them, tension building again. "Okay, stop. Everyone stop. Let's talk straight. What the hell are we even dealing with anymore? A spirit? A possession? A god?" Yoichi looked at her, and for the first time in days, he looked scared. Worse. He turned to Jungkook. "You didn't just open a door to him. You tapped into the ink's original purpose. The ancient purpose." Jungkook's voice was barely a whisper. "Which is?" Yoichi took a breath. Ink was never just art. In certain cultures, it was language, a sacred one. Every tattoo was a word. Every word a command. Some to heal, some to bind, some to keep the other things out. "Other things?" Yujin scoffed. Yoichi didn't smile. "Things older than ghosts, older than gods. Things that live beneath." Jungkook turned back to the mirror. "And now I've spoken the language." Yoichi nodded. "And that's why it's marking you back." There was a sudden knock at the door. They froze. No one should have known they were here. No one. Yujin moved silently to the door, blade ready. Another knock. Then a voice. Soft. Familiar. "Jungkook? It's me." Jungkook's heart stopped. That voice. He rushed to the door and swung it open before anyone could stop him. Taizong, his manager, his oldest friend. But his eyes. Jungkook stepped back immediately. The man in the doorway looked like Taizong. Yes. Same face. Same voice. But his eyes were wrong. Too black, too still. "Hey," the figure said with a crooked smile. "I've been looking everywhere for you." Jungkook couldn't speak. Yujin moved in front of him. "What do you want?" Taezong's doppelganger tilted his head. "To talk. To him." "I'm right here," Jungkook said quietly. "No," the figure said, smile widening. "Not you. The thing inside you. The one with the door. The one who finished the spiral. And of He took a step forward. Yoichi flung a line of ash across the threshold. The figure paused just inches from the line, then sighed. Ah, clever boy, still playing with salt and symbols. Yoichi's hands shook slightly. What are you? The figure leaned forward, lips brushing the air. I am what he was keeping out. The ink was never about him. It was about me. And now that your phoenix has folded its wings, he smiled wider. I can land. The floor trembled beneath them. The ceiling creaked. Outside, the sky turned a deep, unnatural red. Jimin grabbed Jungkook. We need to leave. Now. But Jungkook didn't move. He stared at the figure, at what had taken his friend's face, and something inside him stirred. A memory. Not his. The boy's. A time before the fire. A sketchbook. A page with symbols he wasn't supposed to see. The door wasn't built by them. It was found by him. They had merely inked it into Jungkook. He had been the door all along. I didn't let him in, Jungkook whispered. I was him. Jimin looked at him like he'd lost his mind. What are you talking about? I wasn't the vessel, Jungkook said. I was the source. He didn't die in that fire. He was absorbed into me. The figure on the porch grinned. Now, you're starting to remember. Yoichi stumbled back. Oh God, he whispered. You weren't just the lock. You were the key. The figure lifted a hand and pressed it gently against the invisible barrier of salt. The house shuddered. The mark beneath Jungkook's ear burned like a brand. Inside his mind, 1,000 voices screamed. Ink poured from the seams of his tattoos, black and shimmering. The spiral over his heart glowed. And then, silence. Everything stopped. The figure smiled again, softer this time. I'll wait, it said. I've waited 10 years. I can wait a little longer. And then it vanished. Just like that. Like it had never been there. Jungkook collapsed to his knees. Jimin rushed to him, shaking him, yelling his name. Yoichi just stood there, eyes wide. And then he said, It's not over. No, Jungkook whispered, his voice hollow. It's just beginning. Because deep inside him, past blood and bone and memory, something had woken. Not the boy, not the ghost. Something far, far worse. And it was hungry. It was the quiet that woke him. Not the kind that brings peace, but the suffocating stillness before something shatters. Jungkook sat upright, breath caught in his throat, drenched in sweat, though the air was freezing. His skin felt too tight, his body borrowed. The spiral burned against his chest like an open wound. Jimin was gone. Yoikitu, he called out. Nothing. No footsteps. No creaking wood. Not even the whisper of wind through the broken window frames. Just silence. And then a low voice, right behind him, where no one should have been. You're alone now. Just like me. He turned. No one. But the spiral pulsed. Jungkook stood, staggered, looked around the darkened house. He tried the light switch. Nothing. No power, no reception on his phone. The house was sealed, and yet he heard it. From the basement, the same voice again, speaking not in words but through the bones of the house, calling him back, calling him down. He grabbed a flashlight and descended slowly. Each step creaked with memory. He'd come down these stairs with 6 others 10 years ago, laughing, invincible, fearless. Now he descended as one. As a door, at the bottom of the stairs, the box sat open. The 7 vials of ink were gone, all of them. The sketchbooks were scattered, pages torn, symbols carved into the walls, not by human hands. Not anymore. The ink bled on its own now. It wept down the concrete like it wanted to leave, to crawl back into skin. Then he saw the spiral, a large one, burned into the floor, directly beneath where the vials had once rested. No one had drawn it. It had formed, drawn by heat, as if the earth beneath had exhaled. And in the center, his reflection, not in a mirror, in the ink. He moved. It didn't. His own face stared back, but wrong. The eyes darker, the smile too wide. A version of him that remembered more than he did. I didn't kill him, Jungkook whispered, fists clenched. You made me believe I did. No, the reflection said, its lips finally moving. You let him die. That's worse. Jungkook stepped into the spiral. The floor didn't crack. The world did. In an instant, the basement vanished. He was standing in the past. The night of the fire. He was back on the docks, the air thick with gasoline. The moon bloated above them like it had drunk too much blood. The others were there. Younger, laughing. Jisoo taking photos. Yujin with a knife between her teeth. Yoichi sketching on the wall. And him, the boy with the crescent smile, holding a bottle of ink like it was holy water. Jungkook reached for him, but his hand passed through. A memory, not a moment. The boy turned, smiling right through him. It was never supposed to be forever, the boy said. We just wanted to belong to something. Jungkook watched himself, the younger version, step forward and say the words again. What if tattoos could hold something in? And the others cheered, clapped, toasted to ink and immortality. Then he saw it. What he hadn't seen before? The boy had already drawn the symbol, the spiral, long before anyone agreed. It wasn't a pact. It was a trap, and they walked into it. He saw the boy's eyes, how they didn't look human anymore. They weren't mad. They weren't vengeful. They were empty. Jungkook screamed, and the world shattered. He was back in the basement, coughing, shaking, on his knees. Yujin burst through the door, wild-eyed. We lost him. He's not responding, I thought. Yoichi followed, pale. What happened? Jungkook looked up. He used me. From the beginning, Yoichi grabbed his shoulders. What do you mean? He was never sealing himself in, Jungkook said, voice trembling. He was channeling something else, something older, something underneath him. He wanted us to finish the tattoo so he could give it form. Yujin's face darkened. So, now what? He's not coming back as himself, Jungkook said. He's coming back as what wore him. Yoichi backed away slowly. And the ink, the tattoos, they were preparation. Jungkook stood, staggering toward the mirror on the wall. His reflection stared back normal, but then, for a split second, not normal. A different face. No eyes, just black void. No mouth, just ink. Then gone. Then we reverse it, Yujin said. We break the tattoos. We cut the spiral. We destroy the source. Yoichi shook his head. You can't unwrite ancient language. You can only translate it. Jungkook turned, or rewrite it. He grabbed a knife from the table, carved a small X into the spiral on his chest. His skin hissed, burned as if protesting. The ink rose, but he pressed on. Yoichi joined him, opening his sketchbook. If we're going to rewrite it, he said, we need to give it a name. A name? Yujin frowned. Yoichi looked at her. If we name it, we bind it. If we bind it, we bury it. Permanently. Jungkook nodded. Together. They began carving symbols into the spiral, replacing them with new ones. One for each of the 7. One for the truth. One for the lie. And one for forgiveness. The house shook. The ink screamed. The spiral turned red. Then black. Then cracked. Jungkook collapsed, screaming. The tattoos on his skin erupted in pain, bleeding, hissing, peeling, and then they stopped. Silence returned. Outside, the sun was rising. Yujin looked down at Jungkook, bloodied, broken, but breathing. Is it over? She whispered. He opened his eyes and smiled. No, he said, but he's gone. Yoichi sat on the floor, exhausted. And the thing behind him? Jungkook looked out the window, eyes distant. I named it, he said. Yujin leaned in. What name? Jungkook hesitated, then whispered, mine, because in the end, he had to take it. The guilt, the pain, the truth. The door could only close when it belonged to someone. And now it belonged to him. Forever inked, forever sealed, forever watching. And somewhere, deep beneath the city, the earth exhaled.